Welcome to the latest installment of Brand of Brothers. I'm Doug.
And I'm Johnny. Today we're talking about social media and how to make it work.
All right, let's get to it.
So today we're talking about social media content, how to develop a plan for your Instagram, your TikTok.
We're talking about all of it. We're talking about how to reach your audiences most effectively and most efficiently. So there are basically 5 key ideas that go along with an effective plan.
So I imagine that starts with some sort of goal.
Goals and defining clear goals and objectives are definitely the most important pieces of this process.
Is this like an area? I know when you're dealing with websites, we talk about personas. Do you deal with that in social media?
To a limited extent, because you need to know who your ideal customer profile is, or your ICP if you're a fan of acronyms, which I know you are.
Insane Clown Posse?
That
Love them.
them
Yes.
too, them
Yep,
too.
yep.
So in this
Juggalos for life.
so in this process, we need to define why we're doing what we're doing, right? So is it to generate brand awareness? Is it to drive traffic to a website? Is it to create conversions? Is it about generating leads? What is the ultimate goal, and why is it that you're doing this? And of course, it's also important to make sure that it's aligned with your business objectives as well.
So, and how do you do that? How do you figure out what your business?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. So ordinarily, when we're doing that kind of thing, we put together what we refer to as a messaging brandscape. And that messaging brandscape does everything from either reaffirming or redefining your mission, vision, position, tone, core values, the list goes on. But more importantly, it's about understanding what your marketing objectives are in a short-term, near-term, long-term perspective, as well as making sure that you understand who your audiences are and not how to bring them to you, but going to where they are. So when it comes to understanding your target audiences, you've got to research the demographics. You've got to research the psychographics, right? What are their interests? What are their behaviors? What are their preferences? In addition to that, those personas that I was mentioning, you've got to put together content that's tailor-made for those respective audience members. And then lastly, remember how I just said about going where they are? That's where you have to choose the right social media platforms that reach them. So some of them might be on Twitter, some of them might be on Facebook. Yeah, go ahead, say it.
What's Twitter?
Yeah, so Twitter is this marginally defunct. It's like Threads.
Okay.
It's like Blue Sky.
Okay.
It's a precursor to those.
Mastodon? Is it like
So
Mastodon?
it's a little bit like Mastodon. You know how there was
Google Wave?
there was MySpace,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a precursor to Threads, which of course is
Friendster.
Friendster.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's what Facebook is now, right?
Sure.
Or something
Or
along
there's
those
also
lines.
Tumblr still exists. I found out recently
Huh.
that they're actually growing. Tumblr
It's
is
Well, I
growing.
mean, what? Of course, it's growing, right?
Yeah.
If it's nothing, all it can do is grow. I mean, Reddit it is like what Tumblr was.
Reddit
and then-
Reddit has yeah, I don't know if you is Reddit in the social media's realm?
I would
guess?
say it definitely is, but
Yeah.
for the sake of transparency, I have to say that I am a shareholder, and this is not an advertisement for Reddit. But
I'm not. So
so
I use it a lot though. I find myself using it more than I used to. And I
wait, have you given up on Quora?
Well, I'm trying to figure out why it is why I gravitated towards Reddit all of a sudden. I don't think it changed. The content changed, but maybe I found that maybe I was using Twitter less for stuff that I can now get on
Twitter? What's this? Twitter?
Sorry. X is what I'm talking about. No, I just find that it's interesting. I also know Reddit also has been signing deals to sell their data to the big AI engines, so that are hungry for data.
Well, I mean, it's interesting to see how things are progressing in the social media realm, right? So social media is definitely affecting it has affected SEO in the past. They're trying to rein that in, but here, like you're mentioning with Reddit, it we're moving into a different sphere from SEO to AIO. I feel like we're going off on a little bit of a tangent here,
Yeah,
because
but I think it's
it
relevant.
all of it's relevant, right? We're talking about content distribution and where that goes and how that gets to your respective audiences. So we talked about defining goals and objectives, right? We talked about understanding who your target audience is. So the next thing is content development and putting it out there. So what do you do? First, for me, I like to identify who our audiences are and then establish a list of titles that might resonate with
We
them.
say like titles like
It,
subjects.
so in this instance, I would actually refer to them as article titles,
Okay,
right? So what this all is within is a content marketing strategy, right? And so this
so
content,
that goes beyond social media.
it does go beyond social
Okay,
media, but the content plan has to work within the social platforms as well as the blog spaces and in any content syndication platforms. So the list goes on. I can see that you want to say something.
yeah, no, I had a question because I've always dreamed of sort of a way to post once and it goes out to all of your platforms. So it can, you have one thing that goes onto your blog, then it goes on the same content goes onto Facebook, same content goes on to Instagram. But I've always had challenges because each of those platforms has its own format.
Yeah,
It's
it
either
definitely, yeah,
like vertical
for sure.
or Instagram has a weird size. Now, is there a way to universalize that today?
Of course, there's a way to syndicate content, but that doesn't mean that you should. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? So there are platforms like Buffer and Zoho Social.
Metricool.
Metricool is a
Yeah.
great one as
Yep.
well. Again, we're not sponsored by any of this, so
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can just talk about that
yeah.
freely. But uh, as far as the syndication platforms are concerned, yes, you can phone it in and do one post and hope that one post fits all. But we also know that that's not true because one way that you deliver the message, for example, on Twitter, you only have a couple words to get someone's attention. I'm sorry, X.
Mm.
Uh, but then when you're on TikTok, for example, it's not about a text post at all. It's about a video, and it's a format that has to be vertical. And these individuals also have a relatively short attention span. So, can you do a 2-minute video? Sure. Is it advisable? Absolutely not, unless you're on YouTube, where on YouTube, you have a bit of a longer attention span. So when it comes to this content, it should definitely be customized per platform. And not only should it be customized per platform, it should also be scheduled accordingly. So yes, you can make it where it all goes out on a Tuesday at 8:30 in the morning.
Right. They say that there's an optimal window, but if everybody posts at that optimal window, it doesn't become as optimal, does it?
It does not. But however, not everybody is posting at 8:39 on a Tuesday.
Right, right.
And some of these syndication platforms actually have these amazing tools where you just click a button and it automatically
Optimize,
optimizes
yeah.
the delivery time. And so that holistically leads to the bigger picture, which is having a content calendar. So when you're posting on X, when you're posting on Facebook, when you're posting on Mastodon, it should be consistent, right? The goal here is that everything is cohesive, coherent, and consistent. It's the 3 C's that I constantly harp on. And so at the end of the day, what you should have is an outline of what gets posted, where it gets posted, and when it gets posted. And that whole component the why has already been answered in the previous section with regard to audiences. And then lastly, we want to make sure that we've organized it accordingly. So if, for example, you're putting out video content, that video content should be complemented by the text and vice versa.
Is there now, speaking of video content, I mean, the type of content that you put out. So, there's text, there's images, there's now there's like reels, there are stories, there are what do they call them? Those little
The slideshows. Yeah,
slideshows, yeah.
sure.
Do you pick one and go with it, or do you kind of do a hodgepodge?
So there's a time and a place for everything, and you should absolutely diversify your content. And the diversification isn't just whether it's video and whether it's a slideshow and whether it's text. In fact, what you want to make sure is that the diversification is more around the ideas of promotion and education and engagement, right? So it's okay to do a self-promotional post every once in a while. It's more important to do educational content that is something that is mutually beneficial, right? You're passively promoting yourself while also demonstrating an expertise in a certain content area. And then there's the other side of things, which is the engagement, right? So taking user-generated content that maybe it's using a hashtag that you've branded, or maybe it's you inviting people for talking about your product or your service and reposting that, so that there are mutual benefits here in that not only are you taking content that is positive toward you as a brand, but it's also something that positively it's easier than it sounds. And so that positively reflects the individuals or other companies or brands that are helping to promote you. And then there's a fourth option for diversification of content, and it gets a little bit trickier here. And that's with things like polls and quizzes. It's really complicated to see these have a positive impact. It requires a relatively sizable audience in order for you to actually see a positive reach and reaction.
What do you do when a client comes to you and says, I think that we just need to make something go viral. Like, what does that mean to you?
Well, that's when you start going into the realm of KPIs.
Okay.
So you've got key performance indicators, and so the definition of viral can be different from one person to another, from one company to another, right?
From one platform to another.
That's
Yeah.
true,
Yeah.
right? So, but if your audience, let's say that you've organically grown your audience and you only have 5,000 viewers, if there are 5,000 views and reactions, as far as I'm concerned, you've reached the level of being viral, right? But when it comes to what people think of viral, that's 1.5 million views,
Sure.
2 million views, right? We're talking about things that generate revenue at that point.
Right.
So when a customer comes to us and says, I want to generate viral content, my internal thought is, that's awesome. Me too. My external thought is, okay, well, first, what do you define as viral, right? So we need to end up at a realistic metric as to what qualifies as viral.
I know, like, I make a lot of memes, especially Seinfeld memes.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're fantastic.
Thank you. ChatGPT thinks so too. So but for me, like my key KPI, if I get 50 likes in like the Facebook group that I post memes to,
and how many people are members of these groups?
like 100,000,
right?
Yeah. So, and if I get 50 likes, I'm like, that's a successful one.
Sure.
If I get 7, then I kind of wasted my time.
But the goal, the question is, what is the goal? What is the objective?
Just making people happy.
But if a customer says, I want a viral post,
right.
Well, why? Right?
Sure.
Is it for brand awareness?
Right.
Is it for lead generation? Because if that's the purpose, then perhaps social media isn't really the right outlet.
Right, right. Well, so you mentioned KPIs. So how do you track your success when you're building a campaign and designing these for clients?
So I thank you for getting there, because that's that's point number 5, right? So far we've talked about goals and objectives. That's number 1. Number 2 is defining who your audiences are, right? So what's your ideal customer profile? Who are those personas? Establishing that and putting that forward. And then number 3 is generating content and having it organized in preferably a content calendar. And then what we were just discussing was a mix of media, right? So is it text? Is it video? Is it user engagement? Is it polls and quizzes? Is it
Educational.
educational or
Right,
promotional?
right,
Right,
right.
exactly. So then you're taking us to that final stage, which is analyze and adjust, right? So before you can analyze and adjust, it's imperative to create a set of KPIs and respective metrics, right? So what matters? Engagements, likes, just reactions, right? It depends on the platform. Instagram, you get a thumbs up. Facebook, you can get a wow, and you can get a cry. But
Right.
and do you want to parse out those reactions, or do you just want to look at it uniformly? And then there's
As engagement, like, and you don't really care about whether, I mean, I guess if you're creating a lot of angries, then you probably don't want that, but yeah.
Right. It depends on your goals and objectives.
Sure,
Takes us back to point number 1.
right.
So then, you also have metrics like, people reposting, you have comments, you have other, metrics like, views, right?
Mm.
So what matters ultimately, and then are there adjustments that make sense? And what tweaks, are gonna make it work? So A/B testing the types of information that you're putting out there is valuable, right? So look at what the results are for promotional content. If people love your promotional content and they're not responding to polls and quizzes, well, it's pretty clear that you should probably stop wasting your time with polls and quizzes. It's not getting that level of user engagement.
Um, while we're here, talk to me a little bit about the algorithms because the my understanding is that certain types of content, the platform itself has algorithmic decisions on whether or not that content gets seen by more people, or what factors do you take into account there?
So again, it comes down to what your goals and objectives are and who your audiences are. So if your goals are to play the algorithm game, you're gonna have to focus on negativity. I hate to say it, but when you put things up that are controversial and that have polarity, like politics, for example, anything that could be considered politically divisive, you're likely to get more engagement because people are going to argue. And the more comments you get, the more reactions you get, the more visible it's going to be. Because what that does is it creates sticky content on that platform that then means that you're going to be on that platform longer, which is great for 2 reasons. And both have to do with advertising, right? Because then Meta, for example, will be able to say that they have X amount of hours of average usage per user. And that also means, excuse me, that also means that they're going to be able to sell more ads and put those ads in front of more people.
Speaking of ads, how does your content strategy kind of dovetail if you're doing like social ads or digital marketing? Like, is there some strategy for making them work together?
The only time that I ever really recommend that they work uh, interdependently is when you boost posts.
Mm,
Otherwise, we try to keep them separate because it becomes really convoluted to evaluate the efficacy of a program.
okay, that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. Any last thoughts on the what people should be focused on when? when thinking about this?
I think it's just the big five, right? Establish your goals and objectives. Make sure that they align with what your business and brand goals and objectives are. Establish who your social media audience. Remember, your social media audience isn't necessarily one-to-one in parity with your business audience. They should be close, but they're not necessarily going to be one-to-one. Then it's about content creation and scheduling, right? Make sure that, and I can't hammer this home hard enough, because it's really easy to generate content, post it, and then forget to post regularly, right? That calendar makes it so you're consistently putting out content, and that then yields engagement because individuals know when to expect you. Do they consciously know when to expect you? Hopefully not, but they at least know that you're a reliable source of content. And then the last 2 points are to diversify your content. So don't just have promotional content. Don't just have articles. Don't just have polls and quizzes. Don't just repost. Do all of it. And then lastly, analyze constantly. And when I say constantly, I mean, periodically. So do things. I would suggest when it comes to smaller brands, do things on at least a quarterly basis, just because of bandwidth reasons, right? But when it comes to larger brands, you've got to be at least monthly, if not weekly.
Well, I think that that about wraps it up for today, and I appreciate your insights into how to build a successful social media content plan.
And thanks for all the questions.
Yeah.
I'm parched. Thank you for tuning in to Brand of Brothers. Big thank you to our presenting sponsor, Remix, the branding agency, along with production assistance from Johnny Diggs, Simon Jacobson, and me, Doug Berger. We can't forget music by PRO. Speaking of not forgetting, remember to do that like and subscribe thing, and find us at brandshowlive.com and follow us on the socials at Brand Show Live.